The new season is upon us, and with it comes a fresh batch of talent ready to take the Premier League by storm. In this video, we profile the top talents we expect will flourish in the 24-25 season. As always, feel free to leave your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. This is the top 5 breakout stars you absolutely need to watch this season. Alright, first up is Yankuba Minter, obviously the new Brighton signing, £30 million winger. He looks a very exciting player in the early parts of this season, Harry.
Yeah, very much so. I think he's really hit the ground running at the start of this campaign, and I think it's good to see, obviously, Brighton bringing him in from Newcastle. It was good to see, to be honest, because we know how much of a good player he is in a side like Brighton who favour the youth prospects and who are well renowned for giving young players a go and making them shine and setting up their careers. It's really good to see, and I'm glad that he's flourishing so far.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can see his profile here, left-footed. We know he plays on that right flank. He can cover the other flank as well, so Brighton do have options in that regard. He's had a bit of a weird career up to this date because obviously he was signed, he came through OB in Norway, I believe, and then he was signed by Newcastle, immediately loaned out to Feyenoord, and then immediately sold. So he's never actually played a game for Newcastle. But yeah, really talented player. As you can see from his strengths at the bottom of the screen, fantastic dribbler. We've already seen that in the early parts of this season. He's great at creating chances. We've already seen him getting assists, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him start to add goals to his game in the very very near future. But yeah, he does have that weakness of crossing, not the best at crossing, but to be fair, Brighton don't have a whole lot of height, so that's not really an issue. And, well, to be fair, the goal he assisted, you could argue, was a cross, even if it was a low-driven one. But yeah, likes to cut inside, likes to dribble, really decent player, Yankuba Minter. And I think he will operate on this right-hand side predominantly. Now, it's going to be quite interesting to see how Brighton line up this season, because we thought it would initially be this 3-4-3 type shape. It's shown to be a bit more similar to that, but that defensive midfielder hasn't really dropped in the centre half as deep as people would have expected. So yeah, it's been interesting to see what they've been doing in that regard. And yeah, I think it's been slightly different to what we've expected from Hertzler, but it has worked out so far. They have looked really strong. So yeah, good start to the season, and we think he'll play on that right flank. If you look at his touch map for Feyenoord last season, this is from a 6-0 win, I believe, against Ajax, a huge result for Feyenoord. Clearly, he loves that right-hand side. A lot of movement on that right side, cutting into the box as well. You can see a huge patch there, breaking into the penalty area. Really good. I think this is a similar touch map to what you'd expect from a top player.
Yeah, and I think it also shows that, as you say, that coming from a big game, he has an impact. Where in those big games, in those big moments, he can take the game by the scruff of the neck, and he can change it. And to be such a tidy player at such a young age is a massive boost for him, because he looks for such I think it's fair to say inexperienced player, especially when it comes to playing in top leagues. He is very complete, he's very finished, and he will keep developing, but he's got a very good base of a player that he just gets everything right, and he can change games completely.
Yeah, definitely. And if we look at that game then against Everton, he only played 45 minutes. He had to come off due to, seems to be a bit of a miscommunication. Apparently the ref thought it was a concussion and forced him off, but there wasn't, and he was very frustrated by that. But still, in 45 minutes, he really showed what he could do. Created a big chance, 3 chances created in total. Obviously, picked up that assist as well. 7.7 football rating is very high for your debut. He looked really good. His tackles one were at 0%. I don't think that's a huge issue. He's not a player that needs to be putting those tackles in, but yeah, I think he 3 duels won, 4 duels lost. He's fairly combative for a winger. He looked good.
And you look at those stats, to be honest, if he'd put those stats in over 90 minutes, I'd been pretty impressed. Doing it in 45, I mean, realistically, he could, if he did that in the second half, we'd be talking about a barnstorming of a performance. So it's really good to see for Minter. It's really good to see for Brighton. Yeah,
0.65 expected assists. So the assist he got was very credible, and I think he'll keep doing that. He's got a lot of good attackers around him, and I think that'll only see him flourish further. So yeah, and a very encouraging statistic from last season is that he ranked top for under 19 players with the most non-penalty goals per 90, which is a very long stat to say, but it is very impressive. You can see 0.57 per 90. Now, I've highlighted Evan Ferguson, obviously also a Brighton player, with 0.35 per 90, and Alejandro Garnacho at 0.22 per 90. Now, if Minter, I don't think he'll come in and do 0.57 per 90. That would be insane. But if he did, incredible for Brighton. Yeah. But I do think it shows he's got that goal-scoring streak, and he is a player who can put a lot of goals in the back of the net for Brighton, which I think they've lacked in recent seasons. Obviously, they've had Mitamo's a great creator. They've had players like João Pedro, like Danny Welbeck, like Evan Ferguson who put chances away. But Buonanotte was a bit hit and miss, and Ciso scored some great goals, but not many goals. I think bringing in Yankuba Minteh, who is very direct, loves a shot, loves to score goals, I think it's a really nice signing.
Yeah, and it's that consistency you talk about, as one of the biggest positives as a player is to deliver consistent performances every single week, and that can be so valuable to your team, especially, as you say, when Brighton are trying out youth players, and some won't work, some will. If Minter can be one of those few players in that 11 that bring that consistency, then Brighton will be okay. And they're going to shine as well, because realistically, if he keeps putting in good performances, his teammates are going to keep supplying, he's going to keep supplying them, and the numbers for Brighton in attacking areas are going to shoot right up.
Indeed. Let's move on there to the second player, Adam Wharton. Now, this feels interesting to include in the breakout stars, because a lot of people say, well, he's already broken out, we already know and love him. However, I would argue this season is where he can really step that up to the next level. I think he had a really solid first 6 months of Premier League football. Yeah. Now he's got to come in and level that up again. I think with Crystal Palace, the team around him all falling apart, a lot of players leaving, a lot of players departing. He's got to be the glue now. He's got to bring that team together. So, only 20 years old still, as we say, left-footed player. He came through the academy at Blackburn before transferring to Crystal Palace in January of this year. But he's already proven his worth. He got himself into that England national side, which was a very impressive achievement. We know what he's good at. He's great with the ball. His key passes have very strong numbers. He's great at tackling, really assertive in those tackles. I think he's a really nice player. I really enjoy watching Adam Wharton play. I think with England looking at defensive midfielder, I know Southgate was saying, well, we haven't got a natural successor to Calvin Phillips. How will we replace him? I think the man they should have gone for is probably Adam Wharton.
Yeah, very, very tidy player, as you say. He just looks so calm, and he's so good at just controlling the game. And I think you're right, as you say, he has looked very, very good, but he is still yet to break out. He's only played 6 months in the Premier League. Yes, he got called up to England, but he got called up, but he didn't really play. And I still think he can break out of this Palace and go up to a top team. Now, I'm not Palace aren't a decent side, but I think the breakout for Wharton now would be to push into a Big Six side and see where the options are, or push further up the table. And he is capable of that. He is a very, very good player. And the sky's the limit. He could go really, really far.
Yeah, definitely. So I really rate Adam Wharton highly. We look at this Palace side, the 3-4-3 setup. Yes, they don't have many players at the moment that are of high quality, but there are still some really good players around him. And I think if he can raise that bar again, there's going to be offers in the summer. There's going to be people coming in with a lot of money, probably Chelsea, possibly Manchester United. I think there'll be suitors coming up. He's a really tidy player, an England international as well. He'll be hoping to get called up. Now, we were recording before Carsley's squad announcements, so we're hoping he gets called up for that. Terrible time for this video if he doesn't get called up. But I guess we'll see. I think he's a really good player and should only flourish next season. We look at his FBref profile then. It shows some really great numbers in defensive areas. Tackles in the 95th percentile, 3.33 per 90. 84th percentile for interceptions, 1.39 per 90. Progressive passes as well, 5.48 per 90, which is in the 67th percentile. Now, we talk about how Palace will progress that ball, and especially without Joachim Andersen now, who we know is a really good passer, they are going to need someone in there who can put that ball forwards. And I think that Adam Wharton is that player. He's someone who can take that ball in midfield. He's very comfortable receiving under pressure, and then go and make things happen. Then go and make the game tick. And I think especially we've not actually seen him and Cheikh Doucouré yet.
No,
because obviously once Wharton came in, and then Doucouré got injured instantly. So we've not seen those two together. I think once you've got that defensive linchpin of Doucouré alongside Wharton, it frees up Wharton to do a lot more attacking stuff. And I think that's going to be interesting to see if he can add more passes to his game, more key passes, more assists to his game. And especially without the creative outlet of Elise, I think that will be very useful to have. Now, I know they've got the wing-backs, and a lot of his game will be to go and find Munoz or Mitchell out in those wide areres, to get the ball into Kamada and Eze, who are both good creators. But I think he can still put that ball in behind, find Jean-Philippe Mateta and get that boom soundtrack going. So I think, he's a very talented player, and he's someone who I think while he's already established himself in the Premier League, will be looking to kick on this season.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the one thing that also benefits him is that it is very rare that you get such a young and exciting talent as a ball progressing midfielder. You know, as we'll talk about, we were saying still in Minter, if you think of young, exciting talents, you think of wingers or strikers or even maybe even fullbacks, but it's very rare you get a young, upcoming and very, very highly skilled midfielder.
And even if you do, you tend to get more energetic types because you get players like Kobe Mainoo. And I think Mainoo's got a lot of qualities, but I think his receiving on the ball under pressure isn't that strong. His ability to play that defensive stuff isn't that strong. His build-up phases, Wharton's already nailed all of that. And I do wonder if that's that exposure to championship football.
Maybe.
That playing, because it is quite a tough atmosphere to play in. It's very, there's a lot of animosity. There's not a lot of time or space before you're going to get lumped into by David Nugent back in the day. I was trying to think, well, I don't know why David Nugent was the one who came to mind. Shows how long it's been since I've watched championship football. But yeah, if David Nugent was still around, he'd be lumping into you. So you've got to be on your toes. And let's move on to our third suggestion then, our third breakout star to look out for this season, just Harvey Elliott at Liverpool. Now, a lot of people will say, again, like Wharton, Harvey Elliott's already a star. I'd argue he's not yet. I think there's still so much Harvey Elliott has left to show. I think that he's never really been given consistent game time at Liverpool, but with them having lost a few players this season, with Salah potentially leaving at the end of the year, I think Slot will be looking to implement Harvey Elliott a lot more this season.
Yeah, I think so, and I hope so. This might be a bit harsh, but I feel that Elliott, obviously over the last couple of years, he has played quite a bit for Liverpool, but I find it hard to tell whether because he's worked hard and he's better, or whether because we know Liverpool have had such a poor injury record over the last couple of years. I feel Elliott's minutes have been more circumstantial than actually playing him over other players. It has felt like at times that he's the only option to play in certain roles, and I think it is finally the year where he works hard and he gets into that team over other players on complete merit.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's easy to forget with Elliott that he's only 21. Because he burst onto the scene over half a decade ago now, because he was only like 15, 16 when he started playing for Fulham. And so it's very easy to forget he's only 21 years old. There is still so much time left in his career. And actually, while people say, well, he's not been given loads of minutes, we talk consistently on this channel about how players how those younger players have been mismatched with their minutes, how players like Jude Bellingham, playing so much at a young age, might impact him later on. Yeah. Harvey Elliott, I think Jurgen Klopp has done very well by him to give him a fair amount of minutes to make sure he doesn't play too much football while still giving him that first team experience necessary to develop. So, he's becoming a very, very good player. And I think at 21 now, it's that time where he's got to start establishing himself in this Liverpool first team. There is competition for places. Now we expect him to play more in those midfield roles rather than on the right wing. But with a lot of football to be played, there's no reason he can't rotate with Salah in that position. So I think we'll see a bit of him on there. I think we'll see him in those midfield spots. Now, I know they've got McAllister and they've got Szoboszlai, but after that, it's between him and Curtis Jones. And actually, the job for Elliott this season, well, Jones could be used deeper, to be fair, so that's another thing to consider. The job for Elliott this season is to prove himself over Curtis Jones. Yeah. And then he's the next in line, because he's been given a few rotation minutes so far this season. We've not really seen him play. He's not started either of the games yet. Yeah. Now, we could see him start this weekend, in which case, perfect time for this video. But I think he's a really good player. You look at his strengths, crossing, passing, that definitely bodes well for the type of position we expect to see him in, that right wing, that central midfield, or 8 role, I guess you could call it. But loves a long shot, great with through balls as well, which given the pace of that Liverpool front line is a really good skill to have. I think he suits exactly what Slot wants from those midfielders. A lot of energy, a lot of goal threat from midfield. I think he's well suited. And obviously, with only Ben Doak as the other option at right wing, you'd expect Elliott to get minutes out there as well.
Yeah, Elliott is I think he can be a good player. And as you say, I think this year is pivotal. Because at 21, that's the time where you really make a drive to become a very, very good player. Once you get 22, 23, 24, the questions and the doubts start to come if you're ever going to develop, or if you're ever going to become a top quality player. So for me, I feel like this year, as you say, is the year Elliott needs to get himself ahead of those other players in the pecking order. Needs to show Slot that he should be starting over certain players. If he can do that, he'll get the game time and the experience, which means he'll become a top midfielder.
Yeah.
But he's got to do that first. He's got to show Slot that he is better than the other players.
Yeah, definitely. I think he suits this Liverpool team quite well, can play in that midfield role. But as you say, though, he is still so young. He has so much talent and potential. I still think if it doesn't work out at Liverpool, which it might not, despite him being there for so long now, even if it doesn't work out at Liverpool, he's still going to be a Premier League footballer. He's a very talented player. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a Smith Rowe type move, which he could have been on this list, Emma Smith Rowe, because I think he's going to have a great season at Fulham. A bit old, though, for breakout stars. But yeah, I think Elliott could do that. But I still think there's a future for him at Anfield. Yeah. He's just got to seize it. He's got to prove to Slot that he's worth keeping around. So, yeah, very talented player, and I think this season will be the one that he starts to prove to the world. You look at his FBref profile, it is a sea of green. Fantastic numbers. Shots total in the 99th percentile. This is compared to midfielders. So obviously, if he was playing on the right wing, this is going to look slightly different because numbers are different in different positions. But compared to midfielders, 2.95 shots per 90 is in the 99th percentile. 0.43 assists per 90 is in the 99th percentile. His expected assists in the 94th percentile at 0.22. He's got progressive passes at 7.78 per 90. Progressive carries at 3.03 per 90. They're both in the 90th and 97th percentile. His numbers are really strong. Now, his goals numbers aren't as high, but they're still in the 79th and 86th percentile, about 0.13 non-paying goals per 90. So, a very talented player. Very, very talented player.
Yeah.
His FPF profile is really nice. And actually, if he can prove that over a full 90 minutes for Liverpool, he's going to get goals, he's going to get assists, he's going to be a very good player.
Yeah, the key factor now for Elliott is himself. If it is down to him to develop and to improve and to prove his point now. He's hit that age, 21, show the world what he's got.
Yeah, definitely.
And if he can sort that out, he could be a really strong player for Liverpool.
Yeah, well, we're on a run of English talent, so let's keep that going with Lewis Hall, the Newcastle left back. Last season was interesting for Hall. It was his first season. Obviously, he was on loan at Newcastle. But he started to establish himself. He started to get a few minutes. But this season, it feels like this could be the breakout year for Lewis Hall. So he plays as a left back. He's still only 19 years old, which is incredibly young. But yeah, he does have competition there, as we saw. We thought he would start every game. Then he got benched in match week 2. But we do have that Southampton game to go for. He was very solid. And I think if he can keep playing like that, it's going to be harder for Howe to bench him.
Yeah, very much so. I think Lewis Hall has had a very interesting time with it. Chelsea, I feel for most Chelsea Academy products, because you never know what's going to happen with your career. 1 minute you could be part of the squad, the next minute you could be thrown to the curb and sold. But Hall, he's found a very, very good team in Newcastle. I think it's the perfect team, because while he is going to be developing with a team that is also developing, Newcastle on the rise since the takeover, they're going to be pushing on and on and on as a team. And I feel like that's the perfect place for Hall to develop, because the team gets better, and as Newcastle get more consistent and higher up the table, Hall can develop into a better player as the club progresses.
Yeah, I think it's one of the youngest backlines in the league. I believe Tino Livramento 21 at right back, Sven Botman 24 at left centre half. Well, they were going for Gurhey at right centre half, but that'll probably be shared to drag that right back up. But they do have a very young defence, and the exciting thing about that is that provided Newcastle are able to compete for titles and stuff, and their players don't want to leave, that back four can stay like that for a while. Obviously, they're going to need to sign Mark Gurhey first, but once they've got him, that back four is set for 5-10 years.
Yeah.
So that's a really good thing for Newcastle. His strengths, crossing, passing, dribbling, ball interception, tackling, he's well suited to that left back position. Yeah. He can also play central midfield, and he's very competent there, but I think he has established himself now as a left back. It's also a very good sign when you go to the weaknesses tab on Who Scored and it says player has no significant weaknesses, which says it all. Hall is such a consistent player. We saw it even in the early days at Chelsea when that club was an absolute mess, and yet through it all he still shone under Thomas Tuchel. So yeah, testament to his consistency, to his ability. Very, very comfortable, very comfortable footballer. He doesn't look lost at this senior level. As I say, probably going to play left back in this 4-3-3 that Newcastle play. He's looked very good, Lewis Hall, so far. In that Southampton game, I thought he was solid. I think he'll be looking to build on that in the next few games. But yeah, Lewis Hall, very good player, and he's going to have a breakout season this year. And we do have his FBref profile as well. 91st percentile for tackles, 98th percentile for blocks, so his defensive numbers are really good. Touches, 74.11 per 90, that's in the 85th percentile, so he likes to get on the ball a lot. He's 85th percentile for ball recoveries, progressive passes there, 5.23 per 90. Intriguingly as well, shot creating actions up in the 52nd percentile, 2.11. So he also has that attacking side to his game. He can get forward and add to Newcastle's attack. So yeah, very talented player, big fan of Lewis Hall, loved watching him at Chelsea, and while he's Newcastle now, still really enjoy watching him play. Yeah,
and I think the biggest thing for to be a breakout star and to have that opportunity is to get consistent minutes, and that is one thing that I think that Lewis Hall looks to be guaranteed this season, is that he's going to play consistently, which is the best chance to prove yourself. He's going to be getting consistent Premier League minutes. That is the perfect scenario to develop in, and I think. Perhaps, as you said, there is slight rotation there, but if anything, that's healthy, because as you said, as with Elliott, you don't want to, before playing, if Hall was playing every single game, there's a chance that could be a big problem for him. So that slight rotation is quite handy, especially with Newcastle's injury record. I mean, that would be a terrible disaster. But yeah, it's good. He's getting healthy competition, but really good minutes.
Not handy for my FPL though. So that is one thing that Eddie Howe needs to consider, because he's a great option on FPL at 4.5 million. But if Howe keeps rotating, I'm going to have a huge issue. But yeah, big fan of Lewis Hall, and I hope he has a great season. Our final player then, another English player, English bias today, but he's another English player, a player who has really shone in the early games of the season, which was unexpected. It's Morgan Rogers at Aston Villa. Now, he hasn't put up huge numbers yet. He's not like scored 5 goals in 2 matches or something, but he has looked really exciting. Even in the Arsenal game, where I think Arsenal are still the stronger side there, Rogers really shone.
Yeah, very much so, and I think that's the thing you have to take into consideration. Aston Villa have had an away trip to West Ham, which was a difficult game, and at home to Arsenal. That's 2 games that it would be very hard for a attacking player to look good in. But he did. He looked quite sharp. I think, obviously, came in January last season. I think at that time it looked like an interesting signing. It was one of those where, why has this happened then? But clearly, now he's starting to get used to life in the Premier League. He's a very, very good player. He looked really tidy at Middlesbrough in the Championship. It's that step up. I did question whether he could take that step up, but he looks like he's going to do that. He's still got age on his side, only 22.
22.
And
the oldest player on this list, but still very young.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's in a perfect environment. If you look at the attackers, he's playing with some of the best attackers in the Premier League, like Ollie Watkins. And if those two can link up, that could be a very, very good partnership for Aston Villa.
Yeah, he's a player who's got a lot of experience for his age. He's really trekked his way through the AFL, came through at West Brom in 2018. He was sold or bought by Manchester City, and Man City trying to claim him as an academy product I saw the other day, which I thought was hilarious, but definitely not a Man City academy player. He was there for a few years, never really broke into the first team, went on loan to Lincoln, Bournemouth and Blackpool. So Bournemouth in the Premier League, he didn't play much there, but he had a lot of minutes at Blackpool and at Lincoln. Middlesbrough took a punt at him in summer 23, and by January they'd sold him to Aston Villa, and now of course he's at Aston Villa. But we started seeing him play a lot towards the end of last season. He's now very much going to be a starting player. He's looked really good so far, as I say, this season. I think that his partnership with Ollie Watkins, if Watkins can start putting some chances away, is going to be really strong. He should have had an assist in the Arsenal game. Again, Watkins, get with it. But yeah, Morgan Rogers looks really good. I still think there's a lot of areas in his game that are quite weak. I think he gets dispossessed a little bit too easily, which he'll be hoping to work on. He doesn't really contribute defensively because he can press a bit, and he doesn't really get back in, so doesn't really contribute defensively. But yeah, really good dribbler, really good finisher. He's great with those through balls, as we saw in the Arsenal game. Key pass as well. He's great in attacking areas. If you can find him the ball in attacking areas, he's going to make something happen. And if Aston Villa can put those chances away this season, they're going to be better for it.
That's the big thing. I think it's the end product. I think he's a very exciting player, a very dangerous player. But can Rodgers deliver the numbers that we want to see from him? Can he get those assists on the board? Can he get some strikes of his own? If he can, then he's going to shine. And he'll be a brilliant player. But that's the difference for me. Especially, I think, if you compare the two players on this list, if you compare, say, Minter and Rodgers, I think Minter delivers more end product. As from what we've seen and from what we know, Minter is going to deliver more end product than Rodgers can. But that's something Rodgers can develop. That's something that he can add to his game, and he might if he delivers. If he comes in the season and he's up there for goals and assists in the Premier League, then fair enough, and we can sit here and go, he's had a phenomenal season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at this Aston Villa side; it is star-studded now, and they'll be hoping to make a real good run of competitions. Rodgers has got an opportunity to play in the Champions League this season, which is very exciting. He'll be able to play, obviously, a lot of Premier League minutes. They've got a lot of cup competitions. There's a lot of football to go around at Aston Villa, and I think Rodgers getting that experience will be great for him.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it shows how much he's developed. A year ago, playing in the Championship, a year later he's in the Champions League. So clearly he's a very, very exciting player just from that.
To be fair, though, Middlesbrough were Carabao Cup semi-finalists
They were.
in January.
Let's not diss Middlesbrough. What a good team. And Michael Carrick, great manager. But yeah, I think Rodgers, he's looked very tidy in the first 2 games. He's just got to keep that running.
Yeah, we've got that match report from the game against West Ham. 2 shots, both on target. 2 chances created as well. 0.21 expected goals. So they're those shots from range we're talking about where he can get into those areas in and around the penalty area, take a shot and really trouble the goalkeeper. 38 touches, 3 of which were in the opposition box. 3 passes into the final third as well, and only dispossessed once in that game, which is really strong. And yeah, 7.5 average, 7.5 football rating. That's really strong. I think Morgan Rodgers had a really good start to the season. He'll be hoping to build on that and actually add some contributions to his game.
Yeah.
Which, if Ollie Watkins can put some chances away, I think Rodgers can have a great season.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so as well. And I hope so for all of these players. As we say, I'm not hoping that one fails and one succeeds. I think all 5 of them are very, very exciting young players, and if they can break out, then it'll be very exciting to see where they go. And I think that's the thing that with Rodgers and Elliott, it's slightly different to Wharton and Minter in that obviously Elliott and Rodgers are already at Liverpool and Villa. They're at the big clubs, so they've got the right environment to really become top quality players. For Wharton and Minter and for them, it's if they can break out in their teams, they can then push on into those bigger and higher quality environments.
Yeah, I think the tune might have at you for not calling them a big club there, both Lewis Hall. But we'll see. It'd be great.
They're in the middle. They're in, but they're not like the Palace and the
crucified in the comments.
But I wouldn't say they're. I mean, Villa, it's hard to say, isn't it? But Liverpool definitely. From what we've seen last season, is what I'm going off.
Fair enough, be interesting to see. But yeah, it'd be great for our video if all 5 of them were in the PFA Young Player of the Year come the end of the year.
Perfect.
So that would be exciting. But yeah, that is everything for today's video. If you want to go and check out more of our content, there'll be a video on screen now where we spoke about how good Brighton were in their win against Manchester United and what Fabian Hertz is doing with his fun high lines and various other stuff. So go and check that out. But that's everything from us today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.